All right. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It is time for an elimination match in the playoffs. Two players who managed to get through in second seed in their groups. Classic in the top right, who managed to eliminate Dark from the entire tournament. Remember, in the group stage, a massive victory for him going up against Shin. And you might be wondering, Shin versus Classic, how the heck does this one go? Well, I wondered the same thing, because I've seen them play, but I haven't tracked their stats head-to-head. So I did a quick Google, looked it up on Aligulac just before... And guess what? It's exactly 50%. 22 wins for each, if memory serves, across, a decade of StarCraft back and forth. Classic won his first GSL back in 2014, guys. A player who's been just always at the top 10, 20, 30 players in the world. I don't think he's ever dipped to below top 20, to be fair. Classic's always been right up there. And he is a force that, ever since he came back from the military about a year and a half, 2 years ago, he's had these moments where he's looked so fantastic. He has struggled a little with the consistency, but I think right now he's in his groove, he's feeling himself, and we're going to have to see what he can do, because we know that Classic is solid in a long game. We know he's got good timing attacks, but he's playing against a cheeky, cheesy Zerg, and especially right now in a meta where the Zerg players have very little faith in their late game. They are trying to find ways to eliminate the Protoss players. It is a big best of 7 series. This must have been Classic's map pick. He was the lower seed than Shin, I believe. Shin came in kind of the middle pack of the seedings of the players, whereas Classic was down in that lower cluster. And of course, Amygdala, great map for Protoss for 2 reasons. Number 1 is it's just hard to attack. It's hard to get over there. You've only got 2 lanes. So you can't open up angles the way you can on like Whispers of Gold, where you can attack from a 3rd angle or a drop in the main. It's kind of hard to get those going here on Amygdala, number 1. But number 2, if they hit you with Blink Stalk or Oracle, you're forced to attack into it one directionally in a lane. It's hard to flank with Zerglings to set off those stasis traps. It just makes it way harder to deal with the standard PvZ early game. But this is not super standard for Classic. He's going to open up with a Void Ray first. Not that that's the craziest build, but it is a little different. He's got a Pylon Wall-Off. Probe moving out to take a quick 3rd base. It is vulnerable if you go Void Ray rather than Oracle, if your opponent goes for the Zergling snipe on the 3rd. But that's a very quick Nexus, and the beauty of this wall-off is it allows you to wall off without making a 2nd gateway. So he can get that Nexus down 20, 30 seconds faster, makes a big diff. Few Zerglings going to march forward now. More drones coming out. Sporecaller in the main, nice and early for Shin. I know some players would cancel that once they see it's Void Ray rather than Oracle, knowing that they don't really need the Spore for a while, but I think he figures, you know what, it's usually an Oracle after this. Yeah, I'm going to probably need the Spore eventually anyway. And interestingly, he actually built a Spore on his natural immediately as well. Exceptionally safe play. I'm not used to seeing players respect a Void Ray opening this much, but maybe he just does expect Oracle or even double Oracle after. Most players will try to be much more Queen focused against the Void Ray because they want the mobile anti-air units to deal with that Void. Just have the Queens well positioned. You can defend the delayed Oracle without too much difficulty. Quick lair, and he sees it straight away. It's kind of bad for Shin that gets spotted, because already Classic's going to go, well, I think you're going to rush Hydras here. I mean, it could be a Nidus Worm or something. There are other options. Uh-oh. Oh, Classic. Whoa. Void Ray. Okay, yeah, just hold position there. Ling's running in on the 3rd base, guys. He's going to go for the Pylon. Great surface area on that Pylon. These Adepts kind of surrounded a bit, but Void Ray does get recalled, and it will push that away. Behind this charge, +1 and a Templar Archives very early on. 2 more gases coming in. I think the best play here is actually Spire for Shin. I think if Spire is rushed, a Void Ray opening with a single Oracle, it's really going to struggle, because they often go into Charge Immortal after this. They often don't play Blink, and even if they do play Blink, they just don't have as much scouting with the Oracles. It's harder to see that it's a Spire. I don't think it's common in the meta. I don't know if Shin feels like he can risk it, but I would love to see it. Let's see what he goes for. Lair finishes up in the main. Gonna have to go for it. And it is just an insta Hydra Den. Bit more of a standard play for Shin. That's become the norm these days. Rush to Hydras, because you don't want to be dealing with your enemy's Blink Stalker Oracle with just roaches. Nice early 4th base. Not super early, I guess. 5:45. But when you're teching this hard, going straight to 6 gases before 6 minutes, he took the 4 gases very early because, of course, Hydras are expensive. And immediately, Muscular Augment 7 Hydras come down. Lings try to surround the Archons that do morph in. Another 2 High Templar getting protected. So this was Void Ray Oracle into Archon drop. Old school style from Classic. Only one Adept there. These Lings. Oh, those probes need to run. Those probes need to run. Oh, God, those probes need to run. Oh, you got to keep them stacked in the corner, man. The Adept's Oracle Void Ray will eventually clean those Zerglings. Only 4 probes go down. Could have been a lot worse. Good reactive micro for Classic. He had to keep spamming click on the minerals. Otherwise, the probes would have blossomed out. And if they're out in the open, the Lings can get surface area and take them down. Hydra's coming forward. Storm's just started. Prism gets pushed back. I don't think I really like the commitment to the Archon drop. Because you know it's probably fast Hydras. And using an Archon drop... Whoa, he's even going to commit to the attack. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. He's actually committing to an 8-gate Zealot Archon pressure. These Hydras have good damage. They don't have Groove Spines just yet. They're going to have the movement speed upgrade. Is there enough for them to deal with this Zealot Archon pressure? Nice transfuse on the left side. That Hydra does get transfused. More transfuses on these Hydras as well. And if he gets the Prism, that's going to be a big problem. Nice pull away on the Prism. But overall, good trading for Zerg. Only down a few hundred in the resources. Storm is about halfway done, but you desperately are needing these High Templar to gather energy. And I think Classic's making a very wise call in that... Oh, he gets intercepted! Not that. That was not the wise call I was talking about. Prism goes down with 2 Archons inside. That is a disaster. And it's a Spire from a Muta swap behind it. Shin's going to have to take these 2 gases on the 4th if he wants to go Mutas. But he's going to try and attack with Hydraling. Storm's going to be ready. The question is, what is there to support the Storm? A few Stasis Traps, a Void Ray, 2 Immortals are out, 4 Zealots. He doesn't have the Archons anymore. This is a disaster. Nice Storms to start. You can see the way Shin's just calmly spreading his units out. Says, hey, you've only got so many Psy Storms, mate. That's not going to last forever. Despite that, a great hold to begin here for Classic. Really well done, and I think Shin needed to spread out a little more methodically to make that work. +1 range wasn't quite done. He shoves in and actually takes an awful fight. I felt like there were so few units for Protoss. I understand why he did it. It's one of those things I'm like, there doesn't seem to be a lot of Protoss. It's Storm with not much else, but he warped in just enough Zealots. And with the Storms landing all over the Hydras, it's good. Now, the 11 Mutalisks could still do well. These gases very slow on the 4th base, but what a swing in the units lost tab. 2,000 resources ahead now is Classic. 69 probes. His army's still small, but I feel like you've got to surprise these Mutas and do a lot of damage, and you've got to try and play a very base tradey style from here. There is an Evo Chamber out front. +1 range is done, but I think you want melee upgrades, range upgrades. If you could take a 5th base, that's great. Shin does take the 5th on the left. Good idea to expand to both sides. I do think this corner base is quite attractive because the Protoss is up here. Cannon battery going down, Mutas going down the right side of the map. And there's no idea this is coming, but Classic is just building insurance because he knows he's in a turtled up position. He doesn't have a lot of scouting info. He has no idea about the Spire. And those Mutas are going to fly into the natural expansion. Going to actually fight the cannon. Wow, I thought he'd just ignore it and go for the probes, but he does kill the cannon. He's going to go for a few of these probes as well. Oh, trying to focus them down. 8 probes go down. Make it 10, make it 13, 14. And getting the 18 probes, I think, is worth it. I think that's super worth losing how many Mutas? 3 Mutalisks for 18 probes. Yeah, you're going to take that trade. You're on 80 workers as Shin, and he's going into Hydraling Bane behind it. So that's interesting. I wasn't expecting that. I thought he was going to tech up. Okay, he is going to tech up. Infestation Pit. Lurker Den going down. They might be a bit too delayed, though. And here on Amygdala, on a different map, I feel like there'd be more attack avenues. For him, I think he needs to split half of his army down here and start either busting the natural or rolling into the 3rd. Because you can see, like, he's got to find a weak spot, and he can't be fighting headbutt into that army. 4 more probes do go down. Phoenix are being built. Phoenix will eventually hard counter Mutalisks. 2 versus 8, though, is not really the dominant count you're looking for. Shin's going to back off while he does some macro at home. Void Ray's going to try to support this. Phoenix trying to get on top of those Mutalisks. 1 Phoenix does go down. He might get a Mutalisk, but if he loses 2 probes, that is 2 Phoenix, not really worth it. Bit wasteful there for Classic. A few small mistakes, and does start to tie up the units lost tab. Shin now only behind 1,000 in the resources lost. And if units lost tabs mattered in this matchup, that would be important, but they don't. All that matters is stopping the Protoss maxing out on a really good army. And Shin has not done that, but he's going into Lurkers. He's making 11 Lurkers on Lair Tech, which means they're just 8-range Lurkers. Mutas diving on top. Shield Battery, though, does keep those alive. And I think these Mutas are just saying, you know what, at this point, we just stay here and fight. Oh, the battery just keeps healing that bloody Phoenix. Finally, it goes down. But it looks like those Mutas getting taken out. Mass Lurker Hydraling. This is not the attack angle, though. I think Shin's big mistake is he needs to go through the middle, bust these rocks, and push into the natural, he can't be fighting head-on into Immortal Storm. Because there's 5 Immortals, there's 6 High Templar that are completely juiced up, 12 Psy Storms available, and the Lurkers do not have upgrades yet. Lurker range only now starting. So I think Shin's Lurker tech a bit too late in this game. It's going to allow Classic to max out on a fantastic army. Classic could choose to probe up a little more here. He's still only on 66 workers. Don't get me wrong, one bad fight, Classic doesn't have bank, he can't recover. But he's getting Fleet Beacon. The longer this goes, the closer he gets to Motherships and Tempest, the better the situation for him. And these Lurkers just do not have that much range. Storms, able to pick away at those Lurkers when they don't have the range upgrades just yet. Classic showing zero respect to this army. Phoenix coming in and even picks one up. Wow, he's just going to shove it. Classic, no respect for the Lair Tech Lurkers. And that is just him smashing through. Not a great position for Shin. Shin splits some Lings across the map. Remember, there's cannon battery. Oh, actually, the main doesn't have cannon battery, so the Lings will find some damage in there. +2 range done for Zerg. +2 ground attack for Protoss. Lurkers hiding behind the hatchery. Can they get some damage done? Finally, they're 10 range Lurkers. But they've already lost all their supporting units. They do take out a few of the units. The Hydra Ling coming down. Can Shin overwhelm? Maybe? Maybe he just killed 14 probes in the main base, guys. He's overwhelming. Up in the main base, the Lings surrounding Zealots as well. Classic starting to lose his valuable units. The Hydra's getting some really, really good pickoffs here. He's got to click on that Archon in the back. That Archon very low. One Archon went down. An Immortal goes down. And you know what? He holds on with 76 drones, kills a lot of probes in the main. 60 probes to Classic, 76 for Shin. This is still playable. I can't believe it. There's no money to build a mothership in this game. Classic has to just refocus on the ground, and he's doing this off single robo. Remember, he was only at 66 probes before. He lost a bunch. He needs to reset these probes back into the main base to get back on gas mining, and he's got to kind of fix up his army and his economy at the same time, which with single robo is very hard. He lost his Fleet Beacon. Oh, I didn't realize, guys, he lost his Fleet Beacon in the main to the Zergling, so he's having to rebuild it. Oh, man. That is a disaster. I feel like Classic had this game in his advantage. I think those Lurkers were way too late. The first fight here was fantastic for Classic, but letting those Lings in, oh, man. I mean, you know, we do say that a lot of people in StarCraft like to copy the best players of their race, of their faction, and he's playing like hero right now, leaving his door wide open, and oh, at the same time, Shin's gonna bust the left side, breaks through the cannons and batteries, main base getting jumped on by Zerglings, and dude, what a crazy turnaround this is. I feel like Shin was running out of steam. He had 2 pretty bad fights in this game, right? The first Hydra Ling attack, and then those Lurkers getting jumped. Despite that, Classic desperately trying to distract him with a Zealot warp in. I think the Queen Hydra's going to deal with that just fine, though. 3 Hydras are going down here. They're tracking that Prism. They don't want to let him warp in again in the main base. And Classic's going to have to go hide in the corner. Oh, apparently you can't hide there, guys. I thought there was enough dead space. Apparently Classic thought so as well, but there isn't. +3 air attack on the way for Shin. Now, the +3 air attack is interesting. It allows your Corruptors to kill Carriers, Tempest, Mothership a bit quicker. But, yeah, I don't know if it's the biggest priority. I also think Classic rebuilding the Fleet Beacon is a mistake. So here's my hot take, guys. If your economy is not great, and if, in general, if the game's not a super late game, it's more important to have 2 robo-pumping Immortals and Storm Archon, in my opinion, than it is to have a Mothership. If you're at like 110, 120 supply, I think it's way more important. Don't get me wrong, if you get the Tempest Mothership, it's the supreme late game. But maybe there's an argument for just having built a second robo and double down on the Storm Immortal. Of course, losing the 4th base is what's making this so bad for Classic. It's not really the choice that he made. It's not like he chose to lose his 4th base on this left side. But the second Ling counterattack distracted him. He loses that Nexus. No cancel there. Archon's getting jumped on by Ling Hydra. That is a bit of a crazy move. 50 Zerglings for an Archon, but an Immortal gets bled into the Lurkers. Big siege on the right side, trying to bait the Protoss into a bad spot. You can see the High Templar trying to zone out the army on the left, but the Lurkers are just creeping forward on this left side whenever the High Templar pull to the right, so the Lurkers run in, and this army down here is just going to run away. Very intelligent pull away for Shin. He can just burrow here. He's already finding the damage on the north, and Classic, man, getting out-positioned by Shin. Shin rushing Hydras, getting some momentum on this map, killing the Archon drop, a pivotal moment. Classic, though, just overextending with his attack while getting hammered by a big Zergling counter. Shin wins game 1. Amazing hold on his 3rd base in game 1, guys, against the Hydra Ling timing. I thought he was going to just get swarmed and overrun. The fact that he held on there was really cool. The fact that, you know... Jeez, settings. How do these settings reset every time I log into the server, guys? Like, if anyone could tell me that, I would really appreciate. Like, every time I log into a different server, it just decides to port in random settings. Like, I've changed nothing since I was casting on this server yesterday or the day before that, but it's like, yeah, we're gonna add edge scrolling back on. I'm like, thank you. Battle.net 2.0, much worse than Warcraft 3 Battle.net, and no one knows why. All right, guys, classic, amazing hold on his third base in game 1 with the Hydraling Swarm. His storms were great. They were on point. He used his energy recharge ahead of time. One of the big things you guys have heard me be very critical of a lot of players for is they use energy recharge like shield battery overcharge. Like, there's something in a lot of Protoss players' brains where basically they think energy recharge is only meant to be used when your opponent's army is at your base. And I've been ranting about this basically since the patch came out, because, you know, Clem realized very early on, fill those units up early, get the energy in there, and then you can use multiple, you know, energy recharges before the enemy army actually gets to your base, right? But Classic was doing that really well, and I love that. He was making sure he had the extra energy ahead of time and made things really solid on the storm count throughout that game. Despite that, Shin just says, hey, my Lairtech Lurker might not be very good, but there's always a point where a Protoss gets too excited, spends all their storms, few of their Archons bleed out, suddenly they don't have anything good to deal with Hydra Zergling jumping on top of them. And because they've pushed on creeps, they're on creep, all the Zerg units move faster. The Zerg units are coming in from every direction, so it's a natural surround, because they're you know, in amongst the Zerg hatcheries. You're attacking hatcheries and drones and gases that are helping tank as well, and suddenly you start to get overrun. So there's a combination of that happening. He lost all of his splash damage, only had 1 or 2 Archons left, which is not enough to hold back the Hydra Ling. The Immortals, few Zealots, doesn't do very well on its own without that Storm support. And then the Lings in the main at the same time, of course. Really upsetting him. Very fast Stargate here, guys. Really nicely timed Stargate. Do like this build order. Zerglings going around. First Adept shades forward. No chrono on the second one, so these Lings should be able to get in for Shin. Shin takes the forward base. That forward base, you might think, why would you expand towards a Protoss? Isn't that harder to defend? Yeah, it's also easier to walk Queens and Roaches and Zerglings across and surprise your opponent because your creep spreads further forward, right? So the forward third hatchery sets up for an aggressive stance, which perfectly matches Shin's playstyle. I love to see it. Zerglings going after that probe, and they're not going to be able to get it. Good micro. Oh, the pylon goes down here, and he's Void Ray first again. Now, I don't like Void Ray first every game, guys. I think it's good to mix in, but it can get a little predictable. Classic might have just honed in on saying, look, this is the most solid style. I can deny scouting. We can do really well. And he's already rallied down. He's looking for this Overlord, which Shin has clicked to the corner of the map. And this is a good idea, guys. If you realize it's a Void Ray opening from your opponent, but you're already like too far, you can't just run home, because that's the direction he's going. So your nearby Overlords, you see, can run home. This Overlord definitely should not be there. Oof. But this Overlord should hide in the corner. This Overlord should hide in the corner. And it's going to be hard for the Void Ray to find it. If you can avoid him finding those Overlords, it's going to be great for you. Is there a skull there? Wow. Whispers of Gold has seen some action, man. Twilight Council, second gateway, coming down, as well as a third Nexus. Third Nexus, not as fast as the previous game. The Oracle will follow through. Now, very early Spore Crawler again, so it feels like Shin is not playing greedy at all, despite the Void Ray opening. And I always feel like a little bit of extra greed in the early game could give him maybe a slight lead. But I think Shin's just saying, look, I don't want to make any mistakes. I'd rather be, you know, miss on a tiny bit of potential efficiency. Oh, gosh. Classic. Loses the Oracle there. Just overthinking it. I think 2 drones is great, but he did overthink it. And guys, the Void Ray just moved right past the Overlord. The Overlord saw the Void Ray. I'm pretty sure the Void Ray saw the Overlord, but he flies directly past it. Oh, no. Classic loses his Oracle, and his Void Ray right now is very hungry and has not found any kills. And he's still hunting this bottom side, looking for it, and look at the path. He's not going to find it. Oh, that's frustrating. Glaive Adepts coming in. Robo behind it. Be warping in a lot of Adepts to come across this map. There is a Roach Warren in the wall off this time, though. Does Classic know about that? Oh, he doesn't. He's probably hoping it's Hydra Ling again. So there's a bit of a mini game in terms of like gambling right now in this matchup, guys, where Zergs will try to rush greedy Hydra Zergling. But if they get caught by Glaive Adept, it's really hard to defend. But in this game, he played the safety Roach Horn. He built Roaches blind off 50 drones here. he's playing incredibly safe. So feels like Shin just knows exactly what's happening. And he's either setting up for his own big attack or waiting for this one. He sees the Adepts coming. And that is 14 Glaive Adepts. He's got 4 Roaches, 2 Ravages. He starts a Spine Crawler. He needs to build an Evo Chamber in the wall off. He's got a drone there ready to do so. Beautiful setup for Shin, but he's supply blocked. Oh no, he's supply blocked right now. The Roach Ravager Queen going to try and defend on the front. 1 bio lands, but only 1. Adepts are going to try to shade in. Lings get a pretty big surround here, but they are getting eradicated by the Adepts. You know what? There's not enough Roaches to really make this a great fight for Shin. On the other hand, Classic hasn't killed any drones, and just killing Zerglings usually not enough damage with this sort of build, even though he trades great versus the Zerglings. The Ravager gets focused, Spinecrawler comes up. It's still a little awkward. I do think Classic making Sentry Immortal Probe behind this can absolutely transition out. Units lost tab, though, is in favor of Shin. But Shin is down in workers, and his army supply is not that much higher. Keeping these Adepts alive means a Zergling, Roach Ravager, Zergling counterattack's not that good. Shin wants to do, I think, a Queen German taxi, right? Bring the Queen Highway, run Queens across the map, go with Mass Roach Ravager, Zergling, but the Observer's going to see it. And I think that, yeah, you see what's happening. I mean, you got to just start making as much army as you can. Now, you know what's funny, guys? Classic, he does not have Blink. So he's going to have to play Adept, Sentry, Immortal, which is kind of awkward against Ravagers. Like, as the Ravager count grows, it can get really weird. Adepts are going to go down south of this map. Link's going to go around the left side. Roach Ravager on the right. Sentries will be great. Templar Archives is coming in as well. I think Classic needs to keep on producing Immortals here. They're going to be one of the most important backbone units in his comp. Oh, Force Fields could be amazing. Great first round of Force Fields. Shin goes in way too deep. And these Force Fields trapping a lot of Roaches. So many of those get blasted. But, oh no, he's doing it again! Classic playing hero style again, leaving nothing in the wall. Tries to warp into the TF2's his whole army to deal with it. Oh no, Classic fumbling right now. He had a good setup to defend, but he lets Shin through the choke point. Shin brought a Spine Crawler. Who the hell brings a Spine Crawler to a PvZ attack? This man's a mad dog. Dude, I mean, who the hell throws a hat? That is insane. Right now, Random Task apparently taking over for Shin here as he flies in with a Spine Crawler, Queens, Roaches, and Ravagers, and Classic making a big blunder. Leaves his door open, and not only leaves his door open, he could have just pulled his probes away, warped, and sent a few units. Let's just go back here. I mean, warping in Zealots is fine. Unfortunately, guys, really bad pylon placement in that he doesn't have any choke points near his mineral line. Normally, you want one pylon near your mineral line because then you can do fast warp-ins between the pylon and the Nexus, the gases. His pylons are prioritizing being able to build lots of buildings in the open, but it means he doesn't really have any choke points to warp in at, right? There's no choke points. I mean, here is probably his best spot is probably to warp in a pack of Zealots there, grab his probes, mineral walk to the natural, but he's got to hold this choke point. And F2ing that whole army to the left, that's a mistake that he's going to be having nightmares about. Bad start to the series here for Classic. All right, guys, going into the next game, Shin is going to get the hatchery down here. The probe coming in a little bit too late for that, and Shin did take that hatchery on just 15 supply. So really good preparation for him to make sure that he got that one down. Classic's going to have to deal with a ley lines set up Shin, where he doesn't have to extend to the expansion. Probe harass being annoying. Shin has to pull a drone to get rid of it. Nice. He's just going to circle, being a nuisance right now. I like it. I like it. Classic being obnoxious. That is your job. If you're going to do this little probe harass early. And Shin is kind of just rotating some workers to deal with it as he can. And he'll just keep kind of pulling those off to put on gas, that sort of thing. Behind it, looks like the Nexus has gone down. Did he pull a worker off minerals onto gas? Indeed he did. So it looks like Classic going most likely for the standard Stargate build. If you play Twilight or Robo, you can go 16 on minerals and just rally onto gas the excessive extra ones without really slowing your tech down in a meaningful way. Extra pylon goes down in the main base as well. The probe still circling. So like I said, I like these pylon positionings because they give you a lot of production space, but there is that downside. If they ever get in your main, at some point you do want to have a pylon near the mineral line. Otherwise, it gets a bit nasty in weird situations like that. Link speed should be starting soon, but you can see Shin's already pulled off gas. He's not prioritizing super fast link speed. I think that's partially because he didn't get blocked. number one. Number two, it's very out of the meta for Protoss players to chrono their Adepts twice. So he's probably not expecting that. We'll see. Classic. Doesn't even start a second Adept. He goes Stargate and then Stalker. Okay, wow. Gonna try and use a Stalker to deal with the Overlord. Overlord's very safe, though. It is in that main base. Poking around. He likes to poke in the main base. That's why the pylon's up here, so that you can't confirm it's a Stargate. Most players build their Stargate just out here on the edge. And it's so easy for the Zerg to just send their Overlord there and get a free scout. Adept's going to shade in towards the main. This is a bit of a crazy move here. You do not want to lose this Adept. Takes a lot of damage. Doesn't find anything. Does spot at least that 4 Zerglings were built. But realizes Shin is playing a safe game. Oracle number 1's on the way. And oh my, that is a wall off if I've ever seen one, guys. That is technically a wall off. Classic truly has been studying Heroes wall-offs, hasn't he, guys? I'm not going to say it's a very pretty wall-off. It's not bad. I mean, especially if you build another gateway here and here later, it actually stops him from rotating his army into your natural while you're defending your third. This actually works really well a bit later on once you build some more structures. You can get a half wall out here into the open. Stalker defends. Overlord pokes into the main. So look at that. Shin actually was checking to make sure Classic hadn't pulled off gas in the main. Wow, very advanced scouting details. Oracle flies in and finds nothing. Classic's Oracle's really not being too effective in terms of direct damage. And a massive drone transfer right now. A massive drone transfer. Wow. Okay, very cool. I don't normally see that. I guess, okay, so the idea being he doesn't want drones constantly rallying out. So this way he can change the rally point back to the natural. And that way there's no easy pickings for the Oracle. Good call there by Shin. Oracles come in, kill a drone, but they take a bit of bruising for it. Can't stay in range of the Giga Chad Spore for long. Not without getting punished. Overlord comes in. Stalker will deny. Glaive Adepts again. It's Glaive Adepts again. 2 games in a row. Oh, Classic's playing mind games, guys. Classic's playing mind games. Shin will see a gateway. But that's a pretty normal thing. I mean, I don't think a gateway finishing at 5 minutes is crazy, right, guys? Like this, I mean, he's only seen 1 gateway in the front, right? Yeah, that could be a second gateway. That tells you nothing. That tells you actually nothing. And that's why there's no Roach Horn going down. He's playing melee because he's like, look, you did 4-gate Glaive Adept last game. You're not going to do that 2 games in a row. But Classic's realizing I got to do it 2 games in a row because otherwise you're going to get away with one of these greedy Hydra Zerging builds and skip that Roach Horn. I think Classic might be able to just find the victory with this, or at least massive damage. That's what he should be able to find. I think this is actually a very smart play by him. Sometimes players think they're being unpredictable, but they're being predictably unpredictable, if that makes sense. Because what they're doing is they're predictably just alternating builds, and that's what Shin's doing here. So Classic, by doubling up, is going to find an unprepared Zerg player. Baneling Nest only now starts. And he sees the Adepts, but it's too late. 14 Adepts headed across this map. Probe is stuck there behind the natural, but that's okay. 4 Adepts over here, Oracles as well. He wants to run in the third and then try to shade towards the natural, trying to throw up an emergency wall off. He's got a Spore Crawler there. The budget door. Spore Crawler does root. Should be a full wall off. Nice moves. Lots of queens. He pulls every queen in the front. That's a really good response. The Adepts are just going to fight the Zerglings. Look how quick the Zerglings die. Look at how quick those Zerglings die. That Spore... Oh, the Zerglings can actually squeeze in past the Spore, it looks like. Or at least they could attack past it. One of them could. But, dude, 9 drones go down. Adepts take out the Spine Crawler as well. Zerglings, even with +1 melee, would not be good here. But he doesn't even have +1 melee finished. He doesn't even have +1 melee. The Adept's doing so much damage. Classic building Immortals behind this. The Adepts are just going to stutter step back, try and fight against the Zerglings. The Zerglings realize they can't fight this. They got to follow the shade. 4th base trying to get transfused. Classic trying to take down the 4th base. He shades into the 3rd. He's going to keep fighting there. Dude, the 4th base just got survived. I think the Void Ray and the Oracle could easily finish that off. The Adepts actually get surrounded there by now +1 melee Zerglings. Shin turns it into a hold. The 4th base survives. 9 drones in the production tab. Hydra tab as well. But there's more Adepts behind that. He's gone back to droning. There's another 8 Adepts coming in. Templar Archives and Forge come in. Oracle do take out the hatchery. And they're going to kill a few of these drones as well. Shin may have thought the aggression was over, but it's not. Then again, 20 Zerglings with +1 melee. I think these Adepts need to cancel that shade and go home. Classic needs to start going into the next step of his game. Meanwhile, triple Evo Chamber. Guys, Shin was not planning to go triple Evo Chamber, but he knew he needed a wall off to hold on, so he built an Evo Chamber wall off. And now he said, well, I already built it. I might as well commit. +2 melee, +1 carapace, +1 range. Shin is vibing right now. He is just saying, I'm going to just do some things and see if I can make some magic happen because I know this has been a bad opening. I've got to just try something a little bit wild. And this is my choice. 58 drones only for him. He's got to get that 4th base back up. Are Adepts with the attack speed upgrade better than +1 attack? Oh, infinitely. +1 does nothing for an Adept against the Zergling. They're going to 2-shot them no matter what the upgrade situation is on both sides. Upgrades never affect Adepts versus drones or Zerglings. I mean, technically a +3 carapace drone won't get 2-shot by a +0 Adept, but that's never going to happen, that situation. So, attack upgrades not useful. And it's a 45% attack speed increase. Remember, one of the best upgrades in the game. Normally, there aren't upgrades that good for units because it's too good of an upgrade. But the Adept is a pretty average unit when it comes to its just straight up fighting ability. So even with the 45% attack speed increase, it makes it not terrible at fighting. Still more of a harassment unit. It's all about the shade, the mobility, the surprise factor of it shading across the map, catching you off guard. 4th base trying to go up on this rich gas base. Remember, it only has 6 mineral patches and 1 gas geyser. So the total amount of resources on these bases very low. The longer the game goes, but it's kind of nestled in the center area. Oh, the oracles! Don't lose your oracles, mate! Okay, good pullback and revelation. 63 drone Hydra Zergling. Baneling speed did finish as well. I don't think Shin actually has the money to make Banelings in this game. Triple upgrades and Baneling speed and Baneling. It just seems like a bit too much, and he's going to try and drone back up, but I think that gives Classic all the time he needs. Got the High Templar gathering. Should definitely be using energy recharge to top these up. He's only got 4 storms, yeah? Zerglings run through the army. Shin's going to need a surround on this. Now, Classic, I think poking at the edge of creep is great. There's no need to push. I'm not saying it's a bad idea, but he's just got to make sure he takes the right fight. We saw what happened in that previous game with the army getting in too deep, running out of storm and getting surrounded. Classic shoving in. Crazy decisive. An Immortal gets caught on the flank. The Banelings run into the army. Storm on that counter that comes in from behind. The stasis trap, so good. Great Storm. And those Zealots should wreck it, but they don't have charge. They're slow Zealots. He's got to get out of here. Classic needs to get out now. He doesn't have charge. He's out of storms. The Archon Immortal getting overrun by the Hydras. And what started as looking like a good fight, he's now getting caught. Banelings come in from behind. They don't really land on any of the big units, but the Hydras are still getting crazy value here. They could see that was not a good fight for Classic. Classic's attacks on creep have looked a little lackluster in this game. He throws away a bit of an advantage. That's unfortunate. He does now free up that purple gas, getting rid of the mineral patch. Only has 150 minerals, but it does block the purple gas, and he's going to take a 5th at the same time. Classic, I'd love to see that kind of double robo. Lots of energizers on his High Templar. He's not using energy recharge, guys. He doesn't have storm. There we go. Got to use that ahead of time, because now he's not going to have one ready for another minute. The earlier you use it, the earlier it cools down, and you can use it again. Not the biggest stasis trap on the bottom. Shin here. 65 workers only. He's still got to get damage. But Classic's army is small. Classic wisely gives up control of the base temporarily. He's High Templar. He doesn't want to morph them into Archons, and he doesn't have to. But he's only got 1 or 2 storms behind this force. Not too many. 2 more storms remaining. Banelings rolling in. Banelings rolling in. The High Templar get hammered. Only 1 storm left. There's no Archons. The Hydras. There's no answer to the Hydras. Mass Zealot warping on the other side. The Queen Zergling is absolutely annihilating it. The Archon Immortal gets surrounded as well. And Classic here getting overrun by Shin today. Damn, who would have thought that these two are 50-50 overall head-to-head, going back and forth in series constantly, because today it feels like no matter where the game starts, Shin is finding a way to win. When he has less workers, when he has an arguably worse army, Classic has been getting caught out, and he is now down 0-3. Let's hope he can fight back the tilt, ladies and gentlemen. Classic in the bottom left side has had a terrible start to the series. Down 0-3, fighting an uphill battle, but he's got to work his way back into it. He's got to find a way to just not overcommit on creep. That's really 2 of these 3 losses were him throwing armies away on creep. And it was also compounded by him leaving his door open constantly, right? The first 2 games, door was open multiple times. 3rd game, he walked on creep again after doing it in the previous one as well. So I think Classic's just got to chill a little bit. Now he goes in for the very early block, and Shin kind of does a big roundabout. So he pretended like he was going across to proxy hatch, but then he looped back to take this. So Classic sending the probe down to stop the hatchery block. But you're gonna, because this is what Dark always does here. But he gets here early and he's like, where's the drone? And he's gonna have to go now and go, oh, am I getting 12 pulled? What's happening? Am I getting proxy hatch? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Classic paranoid. Of course, we know Shin's just doing a normal build. Classic is gonna have to go and look for that hatchery. Clicking down here. He's figured it out. He's figured it out. He's gonna confidently go for a Nexus. And notice he's 16 workers on minerals, guys. So I think we might see a Twilight Council opening. Nexus is already a bit delayed, as is the hatchery, since he sent this probe across early. Does lose a bit of mining time with that. Alright, probe gonna get a little bit of harassment. Let's see how well Shin counter micros. Now, the way this works is only one worker can mine from a patch at a time. So you can see, the drone tried to mine there, but it said, oh, this patch is busy, can't mine from it because the probe is on it. But he keeps stopping the probe from mining before it actually harvests the minerals. So he's essentially just occupying space here. This is the guy at the pool in the resort who goes and leaves, he grabs 10 towels and goes and claims 10 lounge chairs at the start of the day by putting his towels across them. That's essentially what that probe is, guys. It's the worst. The worst. You're just like, what? Are you even planning to sit at the pool? Like, they're just, I'm gonna move your towel. He's like, no, I claimed it. That's my spot. And I'm like, you're not using it for the entire day. He's like, I just want to have it just in case. Stargate comes in behind, very standard. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a later Stargate. Goes for a pylon block. Oh, okay, so Classic's really trying to mess with Shin's opening. But 4 Lings will kill that very quickly. Has to cancel it, and the hatchery does go down. Second Adept is not being chronoed. Once again, like I said, no one chronos 2 Adepts these days. It's actually one of those things, so few people are doing it, you'd be surprised. Sometimes it will do massive damage because the Protoss players, the Zerg players are just not used to dealing with it. Oh, dude, Classic, uh-oh. 2 probes going down. He does get a drone for revenge, which is something. Shades out as well. His Ling's trying to take care of that. Uh-oh, don't lose that probe. And there we go. Okay, finally. Classic gets on top of something. Loses 2 probes for a drone, which is not great for him. He will now chrono boost the Oracle in the main base. Oh, a couple of little lag spikes coming through here, guys. That's just the Korean server doing what the Korean server does sometimes, I think. Depth's running forward. Oh, nice cancel at the last second. I did not expect that, and I don't think Shin did either. Gets himself a drone, but looks like he's trapped. He should go back behind the mineral line. Should have moved right there, I think. But, oh, Oracle comes in. Doesn't turn on the laser, though. Just going to try and catch up the Zerglings. And I'm unable to find the Adept. The Adept's just going to hide over here. She's going to stop to regen her shields while the Oracle heads back to secure the 3rd base. Second Oracle's out. Twilight Council and Extra Gateway already started. That, to me, looks like a Glaive Adept build. And Glaive Adept builds have been doing really well for Classic, but I do think his last Shade was a big mistake in that last game as well. Even though he ended up ahead afterwards anyway, I think he could have just not shaded, killed the 4th hatchery, kept those Adepts alive, joined up with the next wave, and he probably would have won. Or at least put Shin even further behind. But shading into the 3rd with his Adepts in a kind of loose formation, letting the Lings with +1 melee surround them was costly. But now, 4 gates, Twilight Counts. I mean, it feels like Glaives, but I actually think it's Blink. No, well, I was wrong. It is indeed 4-gate Glaives yet again. I mean, Classic has just decided, look, Shin wants to open greedy. All the Zergs are opening greedy. I got to punish it with 4-gate Glaives. And I was predicting this meta a few weeks ago. I was saying, like, hey, Dark keeps spamming these greedy builds with just no safety. Like, 4-gate Glaive Adept after Oracle is going to become such a popular build in the near future. And here it's happening. It's working. It's getting him ahead most games, but Classic has not been able to capitalize. And he says, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Oracle Adept going to rotate. Just looks for creep clearing. Remember, this does not look like Glaive Adepts right now. It's just here's a few Adepts, here's a few Oracles. I'm being annoying. And that's going to convince Shin even more. There is not a big wave of Adepts coming from behind, and yet there is. Nice map control denial. The Adept Shade's trying to join up there. Cancels the Shades, okay. +1 melee mass Zergling up against. How many Adepts is this? 11 Adepts, 2 Oracles. It's a pretty good force. The Adepts need to get something done soon, though. They are on a little bit of a timer. Classic has warped in 4 more Adepts behind this. He's going to go after the Queens. I think we will see the Shade cancel, and indeed he does. If he can get rid of these Queens, that would be massive. The Queens focus fire the Stasis Trap. Oh, lovely focus fire. The Adepts form a nice wedge. The Oracles... Uh-oh, that one. A moves in into the Spore range. The Gigachad Spore smashes the Oracle down. Adept shading into the natural. Is that good enough? They're going to kill a few of these Zerglings and drones. But once again, it's a loose shade. It's a loose formation shade where they get surrounded by those Zerglings and drones. And that's been a big problem for Classic. A lot of loose shades. I think he's actually coming out. Maybe he's doing enough damage, but it's awkward right now. It's still awkward. It felt like tech-wise he had the advantage. The execution for Shin has been fantastic. Classic, he's struggling to get into a situation where he can leverage these advantages to finish off a game. And look at that. +1 melee is done. You got to chill now as Classic. You got to go to that next step. You got to think about Psystorm. 4 more gateways do go down. Templar Archives hasn't started. He makes 4 sentries to get that kind of in-between layer of his army where Force Field Immortal will at least be able to hold off an attack. +1 range coming in. Baneling speed. Groove Spines for the Hydras. 4th Hatchery's up in the bottom right. Shin's work account's not good, though. The Adepts are at least keeping him down on 59 workers. But you got to realize that Protoss tech is so late. I don't think Protoss being ahead a few workers actually means the Protoss is ahead. Because I think Bane speed plus Hydra upgrades is way better than just a few Immortals, Adepts, and a couple of Sentries. Adepts trying to shade to threaten to the north. I think we'll see a cancel again. Try and take out that Spore. That drone pops out next to 8 Adepts and somehow lives to tell the tale. I think that's a wise recall for Classic, getting the units back together. 8 sentries! Whoa! It's a Sentry Adept Immortal follow-up, guys. 2 Immortals, 8 sentries. No energy recharge. Shocking to not use energy recharge with this push. I feel like it's a no-brainer to use. I mean, imagine... I feel like he could have used it twice even. Once on the first warp in and then maybe once like now as he's moving across the map as well. The door wide open again. Holy crud. It's so shocking. Classic used to never make this mistake, but it really feels like he's channeling his inner hero today, leaving that door open every single game, just making his life very difficult. I love that the push kills the 4th. Is that enough though? Force Field's very good if the player doesn't have Ravages to break them. 5 probes in total went down for that Ling run by. Oracle's also getting occupied. More Ling's going to go for a counter. This time there are Glaive Adepts ready, though. And with the shield battery, he should be fine as well. Energy recharge on that Oracle would be great, but he's not using it. The Adepts are getting surrounded out in the open. Classic trying to wall his base off, but a little sloppy on the control. Still not energy recharging. All he needs to do is fill that energy on that Oracle and turn on the laser. But Classic is a little tilted today, guys. You can see he's steaming a little bit. He's not doing the things that he would normally do. Shin just keeps getting the better of him, but he is like, screw you, I have Force Fields. But using 8, 9, 10 Force Fields just to clean up a few Banelings and Zerglings, was that enough? Because now he has very few left for the next wave. If those Banelings get in the middle, he is screwed. These Banelings, there's not many Banes, but if they hit the middle of the Adepts and the Sentries, they could be game-changing. Oh, the Force Field Donut is so sick. Amazing Force Fields for Classic. Hold my beer, he says, as he lays the Force Fields down. The old gif of the PlayStation controller guy circling the units with Force Fields and then donutting the center with a Psystorm. Sick plays by Classic. Dude, he's making a few mistakes in there, but thankfully he manages to get a point on the board, and I think that's going to massively boost his confidence. All right, a minor setback here for Shin, or at least that's what he's hoping. Of course, Classic is hoping it's the beginning of a massive comeback. And, I mean, I like timing attacks like that getting mixed in. Force Fields are much better if they don't have Ravages. So cool that he found that opening there. I was talking the other day about, like, what could Hero do to stop having units run in his base? And, of course, the same thing applies here to Classic. One thing is whenever you move out, you can grab a probe and tell it to shift hold position in your choke point. You can just make a habit. You can build a pylon to just full wall yourself. Like, you can just do that. That's an option. Yeah, there's a few cool things you could do. But the reason the hold position probe is nice is because it doesn't get F2'd, right? So if you're addicted to F2, which I didn't think Classic was, that would be an interesting thing. I feel like at this point, guys, you can't go 4-gate Glaive Adept again. But also as Shin, you have to play Roaches. You have to play safe. It's the perfect time to play 8-gate Blink. Double or triple Oracle into 8-gate Blink. Build a forward gateway out here or maybe out here. Warp in Stalkers and just keep attacking on the edge of creep. And you can transition. It doesn't have to be an all-in, but you want to commit to it off 4 gases, so about 60 probes, no gases on the third base. And it's a very hard build to stop. We've seen Dark die to it a bunch. Now, this is yet again Classic doing a wall-off that I can only describe as fascinating, guys. When I say fascinating, I mean it's like a hero wall-off. It's ugly. Classic used to be the guy who was into like memorizing the methodical pylon wall-off positionings, but I think he's looked at Hero's recent success and he said, apparently taking a few shots of Soju and just doing stuff instinctively might be the way to do it, because this is a terrible choke point. He's going to have to build a pylon or something over here, which he has been doing a lot. I think he builds a pylon there, and then there's the choke point between the pylon and the gateway to the south of the pylon. Very interesting to see what happens. Twitch chat's making fun of my love of cheap instant coffee. Honestly, it's just put the caffeine in the veins. To be fair, it is actually the good. It's pretty good. That Aldi instant coffee is not bad. I like bitter things, so I'm actually a fan. You know, I leave the tea bag in my tea. I'm a psychopath like that, man. Adept goes up to the left side. Zergling's coming in. Adept's going to take out that Zergling. No scout for you, son. Oh, pylon wall to not let it in. It is a Twilight Council opening, guys. You can't go 4-gate glaive Adept, right? It doesn't make sense because he's going to open roaches. Unless you go 4-gate glaives even faster, right? He's like, what if I do it, but I don't build the Oracle first? And I'm like, I actually love it. I love it, dude. If you feel this is the way to do it, heck yeah. He's going to go gateways before glaives. This is the trick, guys. Notice he's pulled 1 worker off each gas. He's got 4 gateways coming up now. He'll start glaives, chrono boost it probably, and he's going to meanwhile just be annoying with these 2 adepts, distracting Shin, and he wants Shin to not realize what's happening. Unfortunately for him, Shin has an Overlord in the back, and if that Overlord decides to poke in, it's going to insta-scout the Twilight. Luckily, Shin's so busy dealing with the adepts, Shin doesn't seem to be paying attention. It's time to build a Spore Crawler. So Shin's investing in Spore Crawlers and Queens right now. And guys, yes, just once again, I'm on Shin's vision, which means it swaps to his announcer, his in-game announcer. And you just heard the voice of Diva. That's right. Shin is a high testosterone alpha male, guys, and he just finds that he plays StarCraft better with the high-pitched tones of a mech-driving, random GM World Champion fictional Overwatch character in his ears. Some would say it sounds like nails on a chalkboard, but to Shin, that sounds like victory. He does scout at the time here, before the Prism's out, before Glaives is done. His Roach Horn, he's going to need to pump Roaches as soon as that Roach Horn is ready. Adepts coming forward, 7 Adepts to start, 1 Warp Prism. Nothing in the wall. Is anybody surprised? Not me, guys. He doesn't even hold position the probe in the wall. You should hold position in the wall so they can't get past if you're not looking. Oh, big surround. Big surround. Oh, no prism pickups. Wow, he's letting them all die. Oh, no. His Glaives wasn't even finished. Guys, Classic just lost every single Adept before his upgrade finished. He kills 2 drones for 7 Adepts. It's a disaster. Holy, oh my lord. I mean, right now, dude, he gets a few drones with that, but he loses 4 Adepts for like 3 more drones. Did he just lose the Prism? He just flew the Prism into the Giga Chad Spore. Classic is falling apart tonight. I don't know what's going on in these games, guys. I have to call it like I see it. I don't mean to be harsh, but I guarantee you he will be having the same thoughts. This is not the Classic we saw in the group stage eliminating Dark. It's just not. He's having an off day today. He's made so many uncharacteristic, unforced errors. And Shin is playing really good StarCraft. When you're playing really good StarCraft like Shin is, your opponent's having an off day, it starts to just look like an absolute lopsided matchup. Sentry, Immortal, Adept there on the ramp. Classic's going to struggle to take a third base. There's only 39 drones for Shin. That's the saving grace. Making 7 Roaches, though. I think he can run across the map and commit. I think Shin should just keep making Ravager Zergling and just go kill the third. Because I don't think you can defend this with Classic. And if you surround with Ravager Ling, you're going to kill all the Sentries, the Adepts, Immortals, because they're in too low a number. So I think that would be the best play. But Shin's kind of droning, kind of making Ravagers. He's kind of halfway between 2 different directions. I do think constant army production will be a game winner, though, if he goes for it. CPIG, you don't need Roach Horn to counter it. Yep, you just need those Adepts to get themselves all surrounded. Even when he got intercepted, guys, with the Adepts here, he should have just cancelled the Shade and started just picking up the Adepts and unloading them here. Like, he could have microed those Adepts back really well with the Warp Prism. Remember, a Warp Prism essentially gives blink to any nearby units, and Classic with a wild mistake there. Now, Shin has a giant army, so you got to be really careful about committing in. Shin is still massing Ravager Zergling, and I think he's just like basically waiting for Classic to attack him so he can pounce. This is what we call a defensive all-in from Shin. He's only showing half of his army. The other half's on the left. So Classic's only seeing the half on the right. He has no idea about these units. Shin runs forward very early. His Lings aren't there. That's a bit of a mistake for Shin. Shows his army way too early. Adept's getting behind the natural. Dude! Classic finding damage right now. 3 drones go down. Prism gets out of there. Gigachad Spore not in position for that one. The sentry's still looking very exposed. Shin, you can tell, wants to get on top. And oh my lord, the force fields do not block the Zerglings. The Bile's coming down. The Lings just absolutely annihilate the sentries. And Classic, every time he has stepped on creep in this series, it has been a disaster. It has been a massive and sudden swing in Shin's favor. And this one is no different. Every single time he has stepped on creep, it has been a disaster for Protoss. And that's going to be something that haunts him a little bit. He's going to be paranoid his next few PvZ series, because this is just being crazy. Classic, unfortunately, having a little bit of an off day here, while Shin just steamrolls his way through to that next match, looking for a spot in the semifinals.